All right, what's up YouTube? John Mango from johnmango.com. I'm going to walk you through my current arm training, what it looks like, generally speaking, and with that, explain to you how I plan on adding about an inch to my arms, as far as lean tissue, of course, goes over the course of this bulk. Now, I've been lifting for a long ass time, and so you might be wondering how exactly, naturally, does somebody add 1 inch to their arms after all this time? Well, there's specific scenarios where this is certainly possible, and regardless, no matter how long you've been training, you can still make significant progress. There's natural pro bodybuilders that have been at this for 20 plus years, still pushing and making progress. But you have to become more intelligent with your training. So I'm going to explain to you how I'm doing that, how I'm applying the understanding of principles to actually grow muscle, to maximize results even when you're advanced. Also, keep in mind that I have certain limitations and injuries, which I hope to teach you in this video to learn from before they occur to you, that has set me back in the arm growth department, so I can not only make up all the ground that I lost, but go beyond that. Okay, that's the plan. Now, I am 5 months into the bulk as of recording this video. I started the bulk in September of 2023, right at the beginning, and it is currently the end of January 2024. The footage I'm going to show you is from my first training block of the bulk. I'm currently starting training block 3, just started about a week ago, but I'm going back to the same split that I had here. So my arm training actually looks very similar to this right now as well. My training block number 2 was completely different, and I'll break down and explain to you what that all looked like at some point. But for now, this is what my arm training looks like, and I'm going to explain to you the methodology behind it, okay? As well as some important tips that hopefully you find helpful that will save you a lot of pain, physically and mentally, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. I'm starting here with a spider curl, all right? Now, the spider curl, you'll see, is great because it's highly stable, and there's no real way to use momentum here unless you start legitimately swinging your arms. It's just stupid. Okay, so you'll see nice and controlled. I hit the bottom of the bench on every rep, and I standardize the form that way. I'm doing 3 sets here, 6 to 10 reps, and I'm taking it between 0 and 2 reps in reserve. What does that mean exactly? Here's what it means. It means you'll notice this and people think, oh, you know, you're not training so hard. But really, task failure, when you get to that point, you have achieved a significant stimulus on your muscle, okay? Significant enough to produce growth, of course, and minimize fatigue. Now, the problem is people don't realize what hard training really looks like, and that is taking it to task failure. That is hard training. So if you see here, that rep, I'm lowering, trying to keep it controlled. I probably had 1 more clean rep in there. Let me pause this real quick, because right there, people say, what do you mean? I had sort of, a lot of people, you watching perhaps, are used to seeing people like, if I had to name a name, the talk of the town these days, Sam Sulek. Sam Sulek trains very hard, for sure. Unfortunately, here's the problem. People think that training hard means hit task failure, and then you start to compensate, whether that's a little swing, some partials. Next thing you know, I'm going from doing this full range of motion to a little swing to partials. Okay, see how stupid that looks? Yeah, that's what people are trying, like making those sounds, okay? That looks great on the camera, and it looks great in our minds, like, yeah, that's hardcore. And I did all of that. I trained just as hard, and I would do it 7 days a week for many months in a row. You can see it on the channel yourself. Now, here's the problem. When you're young, especially if you happen to be using stuff, but even if you're not, you're young, early 20s, or even if you're just young in the game, you can get away with that for a certain period of time. Unfortunately, it's not sustainable long term, and you'll realize that you're just accumulating massive amounts of fatigue for a stimulus not worth it. Now, if you're a complete beginner, again, you'll recover from it, sure, most of the time. If you're unlucky, you might injure yourself. But you can also, you do typically need a little more volume as a beginner or intermediate, because you have so much, you have a bigger pool of high threshold motor units that you can still grow and stimulate. Whereas the more advanced you get, in fact, typically you need less volume, because you're more susceptible, because fatigue is generated faster as you have a lower amount of high threshold motor units to even recruit in the first place. Okay, so you have to be very precise, very concise with your training to stimulate the high threshold motor units that you still have remaining to be stimulated and to grow, and to avoid all the excess fatigue that comes from doing a subsequent set every time. Now, I didn't know this, not, a few years back when I was still cranking it, and inevitably, I started sustaining serious injuries, okay? Not that serious. I'm lucky, I'm fortunate in the sense that my injuries, like I've battled arm issues and injuries that I was battling still at the time of this video, and even still today, are slightly there, but they're healing rapidly because I'm training smarter now. And training like this at this actual intensity helped to recover this while still making progress, okay? It's not about doing as much as possible. This is the young mindset, and I totally get it, and sometimes you gotta learn the hard way. So you might listen to this video, say, whatever, just to keep going, fucking pushing through all this, like trying to, that's another thing. It's like a status symbol these days, like, nobody trains harder than me. It's like, nobody really cares, to be honest. All that matters is, are you making progress, and for how long? Okay, because a lot of times people get injured, one big injury, they're scared to ever train that hard again. They're done for life, like they never come back. So all of that is to say that what you're seeing here is a training intensity that allows me to reach very close to task failure on my standardized form. So if I can't complete another rep of that spider curl all the way up and all the way, well, of course, all the way down I'll go, but you get it all the way up without starting to tweak my body here, this, that, and the other, then it's failure, okay? Not, you gotta do some partials at the end, you're gonna start swinging and all. No, that's excess fatigue for very little return, especially the more advanced you get. So keep that in mind. So that's why you're seeing the intensity you're seeing here, because it's a true measure of intensity, not a warped measure that I myself had for several years that led to now all these injuries. I got knees, I got low back, I got shoulder, I got arms. They're healing over time, but you got to be careful and train intelligently to avoid them in the first place. So after I do the spider curl for 6 to 10 reps, 3 sets, I come over to, and I'll press play now, I'll come over to the close grip bench press. Again, watch the standardized form here. Nice and controlled. Half a second pause at the bottom to make sure there's no bounce. And of course, this is a great tricep builder. Okay, we're keeping the elbows tucked quite a bit. And I'm pushing here for 6 to 10 reps as well, 3 sets. Now I am antagonist supersetting the exercises in this workout because it saves time and I personally prefer it. Antagonist supersets are not detrimental to performance so long as what I do is I rest 1 minute between the antagonist superset and then I rest an entire actual rest time after this. So I'll do the spider curl, I'll rest 1 minute. By that time I've walked over to the bench that I already have set up, of course, and then I'll rest 2 to 3 minutes and restart that set, okay? So it's 3 sets there. I'm obviously tracking all this stuff in. I track my rest times with my Apple Watch, and you should be tracking your training sessions. If you aren't, what are you fucking doing? If you want help doing that, then check out Elite Physiques Pro in the link in the description, all right? Next, I'm doing barbell curls, okay? So this one is the exercise most susceptible. It's the least stable out of the ones I've chosen, most susceptible to form breakdown. But of course, we just do our best to sustain proper form. And as you'll see, that's what I'm doing here. And we're coming up just over halfway. There's no need to go all the way up here to where there's all this flexion in the shoulder. You're getting a lot more brachialis at that point. That's not our goal here. That's not my goal. And in fact, the brachialis is where I had that slight injury. So I'm okay with avoiding maximum brachialis stimulus at this point in time. Now here it's going to be 8 to 12 reps, I believe. And again, very intense, nice and controlled. Now there, see at the bottom there, I was not controlling it all that much. So you can tell I'm getting close to a point where I can't complete another rep. So there I realize I'm not able to lower it with enough control. I'm dropping it because that's when you can start swinging it up and it's very deceptive. I'm resting a minute, I'm supersetting with the rope tricep pushdown. And again, nice and controlled here, no swing. It's not a stable exercise, okay? So this pair of exercises here, not the most stable. And again, nice and controlled here, about halfway, 90-degree bend in the elbow and back down. After that, you start to flex the shoulder again, which sure, we can argue, obviously tricep does work in shoulder extension, but it's just not needed here to maximize the stimulus, okay? And again, if we want to standardize form, we want as few moving parts as possible in an isolation movement like this. So that, I probably had 2 reps left in the tank, maybe 3. The intensity in this particular workout footage you're seeing might be slightly lower, simply because I was about 10 pounds lighter here than I am now. So all these weights I'm lifting a significant amount more currently, but I was working back up after a long period in a deficit and so on. So, you know, I wasn't gonna go full blast when I'm super lean, hormones still not optimized, but I was pushing a decent amount. Now, preacher curl, 6 to 10 reps. And again, nice controlled, full extension coming up, and trying to keep those the wrists straight, okay? Now here we can see, as I come up here, that was probably task failure. So I'm coming here, exactly. So I couldn't complete another rep unless I start scooting on the seat. Why? Why would I do that, right? And then I superset this with a overhead tricep dumbbell extension, which, okay, not the most stable, but you'll notice I've chosen an exercise. It's just 3 exercises for bis and tris, 3 sets of the first one for bis and tris, then 2 sets, and then 2 sets of these, and that's it. Okay, we're hitting the tricep from every angle. Okay, we've got one down here, we've got one mid-range, and we've got one overhead. Okay, for an extra stretch, and then the bicep, similar thing. We have the preacher up here, though it's similar to a spider curl, but different feeling on both. Okay. Like the preacher curl, you're going to feel a lot more resistance in the bottom range, whereas the spider curl, a lot more resistance in the mid range, whereas the barbell curl, also mid range, but different leverages, etc. Okay, and then that's it. From here, I do also forearms, and it's as simple as 1 set, just burning it out. Okay, nothing crazy here, as forearms have always been a strong point, but I figured I might as well start hitting them just for fun, this bulk, see what happens. And then I also do abs after this as well, which is literally 1 set of cable crunches to the point where I just can't do anymore. All right, this is my approach right now. This is my current stack of how I'm cranking my arms. Now, this split that I'm on right now, I have chest and shoulders on day 1. Day 2 is calves and back. Day 3 is rest. Day 4 is this workout, arms, forearms, and abs. Day 5 is quads, hams, and glutes. And then day 6 is rest, and I repeat on day 7. So the frequency technically is about 1.5 times per week on all muscle groups, but arms obviously are getting hit, triceps on chest day, biceps on back day. And so technically speaking, I am hitting arms with a higher frequency. So if you want to bring up your arms, it's about making sure you're doing the appropriate amount of volume in a given session across an appropriate amount of intensity, at appropriate intensity across a appropriate amount of frequency. So this frequency from now makes the most sense for me. My second training block was a higher frequency than this. Now you're doing higher frequency typically when you're doing higher volume, because when you do too much volume in a single session, you're just not getting the return on investment worth doing all that volume. So here we have 7 sets on biceps, 7 sets on triceps. This is probably the upper limit of what I would recommend. Based on the literature we have, if you're pushing to a high intensity with long rest times, this probably makes the most sense as somewhere around an upper limit of how many sets you should do per body part in a single session. So for biceps, I did 7, for triceps 7. That would be considered high volume in a single session. But again, I'm only doing this actual arm day once every 7 days. So I have it spread out a decent amount. On my second training block, here you can see I'm doing the abs, just cranking this. I mean, check out the form here. It's all about standardizing it. Keep, no hip swing, just pure abs, okay? Pure crunch movement, that's it. They're pretty deadly, and that's all I need. Now I'm gonna show you some physique real quick before I top things off. Again, this is my physique back then. I was weighing about 196, 97 pounds here. This wasn't after the arm day, this was after one of the back days. But I figured I'd show it anyways. I was relatively lean still, and I'm still pretty lean, but I definitely don't have a lot of definition in the midsection that I do here, which you're about to see. So arms, relatively lean here. If this had been after my arm day, they would be significantly bigger. They're somewhere around 16 and a quarter inch in this video right now, sitting at around 16 and a half inch. Now you'll see the midsection decently peeled, not all that much fat there, though still some. Right now I definitely have more, and so I'm aiming to probably go for a mini cut at some point here soon. Back has always been a strong point, and it's only been getting better and better. Back thickness is going to be my focus as far as back training goes this time. I have relatively narrow clavicles, so width has always been a struggle just genetically. Here's an arm shot. Again, arms were hit somewhat from back training, but after an arm day, they would look significantly better. Shoulders, rear delts can come up as well, and chest. So chest, shoulders, and arms are and have always been my weak point, and that's what I'm gonna be aiming to bring up, as I always do. Now, the good thing about that is that because my strong points are back and legs, I get to focus extra time on the muscle groups that are the most fun. Okay, at least I find them the most fun: arms, chest, shoulders. What guy doesn't? So that's the good news there. But to summarize the point, so I've already gained about a quarter to potentially around ½ inch. I have to do my physique update soon on my arms so far, 5 months into this bulk. Now, obviously, I've gained 10 pounds. Some of that is going to be body fat, but of course, I've gained a significant amount of strength on all these lifts, and some of that's going to be mass. I'm going to continue this going, and I've gotten to a point where my arms were about 17 inches. This is shown on the channel as well. 17 inches at about 204 pounds, about as lean as I was in this physique update I just showed you here. But I was about 196, 97 pounds in this video, which means I had about 6, 7, or what is that, maybe 9 more pounds. No, I said 204, 7 more pounds of lean mass probably, potentially more, depends on how lean I actually was. But of course you appear leaner the more mass you have. Anyways, I had more mass, my arms were significantly bigger, my shoulders were bigger, and my chest was bigger, okay? So my goal in bringing these up is I found the split that works best for me, which is slightly higher volumes per session. Again, high volume in a single session when you're doing high intensity with long rest times is probably somewhere around 7, maybe 8, maybe 9. But I would say around 7 is where you can be sure you're entering high volume territory for a single muscle group in a single session. And I already tested in my second block, splitting that up into 10 sets per week, okay? So actually hitting the muscle group twice within 7 days. And so in other words, I'm hitting it 3 times every 8th day, okay? That's quite a difference, or every 9th day, something like that, to where the frequency was significantly higher, the volume was significantly higher for my arms and all the other body parts, and I was not recovering, okay? In fact, aggravations were coming back. It just wasn't working. So I instead am doing slightly higher volume per session, and I have a dedicated arm day. If you want to grow your arms, you got to stop doing a push-pull legs and you're just tacking triceps at the end, you're tacking biceps at the end. You need to have a dedicated arm day. Even if that's a push-pull legs arms day, rest, repeat, that can work as well. Or if you're doing like a push-pull legs, but on push day, you're doing biceps before your chest. This could work, though still, I would say, is inferior to having a full-blown arm day. And you can tack on something like I did, shoulders, or you can tack on forearms, abs, whatever at the end to make it a little bit more of a, not so short day. Regardless, a full-blown arm day is going to be important. Pushing to a high intensity with task failure. Long length partials are not required. I do them here and there, but they aren't required for your best gains. Get used to setting a standardized form for your reps, and stop thinking that going beyond that and to where you're swinging and you're grunting a lot is suddenly hardcore training, okay? If you want to look good on social media as far as like you're training, you're shaking like this, like I don't know if you guys seen that these days. These days people are like shivering for their last rep. That's terrible. That is not good. That is not like high intensity. That's just stupidity. Like what is the, and again, this is me at 29 saying this. At 21, that was me saying, oh yeah, this is intense. So you can either learn the lesson yourself, like I did, or heed my advice and say, you're going to end up getting to a point where all of that takes a toll on you, whereas the whole time you could have just stimulated instead of absolutely trying to annihilate to either appease others or your own ego, okay? Standardize your form, take it to 0 to 2 reps left in reserve of actual task failure on the standardized form that you've set. Don't care about what others say. You know, oh, that's not. Okay, did you act, or do you know truly that you couldn't have done another complete rep unless you start momentum? So standardized form, high intensity within that form. Sets, okay, you can either choose more sets and split it up into more frequency. So instead of 7 sets in 1 session for the week, you could do 5 sets in 2 sessions for the week. So it's higher volume, right? 10 sets for the total week or more than that. Really depends. You can choose whichever one. You have to take one through a training block and see what works better for you as far as recovery. Are you able to gain strength on the upcoming lifts consistently, progressive overload, on your bicep and tricep movements with no discomfort whatsoever? This is a good indication you are recovering well enough. If you're not, then you can scale back to a lower frequency, slightly higher volume per session approach. That's what I'm doing. Because keep in mind, overlap occurs. When you're doing any sort of pressing, you're hitting your triceps there anyways. Have a dedicated arm day. Make sure you're in that surplus, a steady surplus that's controlled. Make sure you're getting enough protein. I always recommend slightly more than just 1 gram per pound, the sort of standard recommendation that it's become over the years. I recommend more than that. If you want to know why, check out the full bulking video breakdown, the modern bulk. I just posted it to understand better why you would set your bulk up in such a way that you're eating more protein and how to even achieve this surplus, what kind of a surplus, etc. Make sure you're doing that and do it for a long period of time, 12 months, okay? And if you are more beginner / intermediate, you could gain more than 1 inch on your arms easily by doing this. I gained about 1 inch in my arms from doing this when I was closer to intermediate, but it wasn't this intelligent. It was the fucking hardcore and this, that, and the other. Yeah, it was great in the moment, but again, now what happened? I got injured from it, and I lost arm size because I was forced to not be able to hit arms as much. I couldn't tolerate the volume any longer, so I was forced to train more intelligently. Do that now, and you will not only grow your arms by 1 inch, but you'll sustain that growth forever and keep building on it. Instead of now me trying to get back to a 17-inch arm at my ultimate level of leanness that I achieved at 204 pounds, now I have to play catch up and get there first before I can go past it. Whereas I could have just sustained the arms the whole time had I done things better, more intelligently, okay? So I hope that this provides more context as to a session that I've showed you that you can set up for yourself. Give this arm workout a try yourself. I don't doubt that you're gonna like it a lot. A little bit of a physique update as far as what I looked like at the beginning of the bulk. I'll do one more recent after maybe an arm day or something like that in the same lighting, same setting, and show you an update as far as what I'm looking like currently. I've put some body fat on for sure, but a lot more size as well. And that's it. I hope that you found this video helpful and just a few tips as to how I'm growing my arms, how I've grown my arms in the past, and how sometimes what worked before isn't going to work to take you to the next level. The more advanced you get, if you weren't training smarter before, you're going to be forced to train smarter down the line, or else you're going to be paying a fuck ton of physiotherapy bills just to keep up with what you were doing before. So it's up to you. Save the money and time now for the future and save the gains, or put everything at risk simply because I train the hardest ever. Who cares? Who cares? Trust me, I see a lot of people that are training so intense that they're like, nobody trains harder than me. They look terrible. You're going to see the progress regardless of how you look on the camera shaking. You understand that? Okay, so just you decide task failure. You understand task failure for yourself. Take it to that point. Take it close to that point. And you're getting the stimulus you need for the return, okay? The return on investment is far greater. That's it. I think I've repeated myself enough times. If you found this helpful, or if you want to see anything else, drop a comment down below what you thought. Try this arm workout. Drop a comment below if you do, how it felt. And anything else you'd like to see on the channel, I'm happy to bring it to you. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I will see you in the next video. I'm out.